I'm Mark Golub, and there were many heroes who fought in World War II, and many were Jewish. But very few of their names do we know. Fred Hausman is a name you should know. Fred was a Jew living in what was then known as Palestine, who fought in the British Army and would become the British Army's highest decorated World War II Palestinian soldier, winning the Distinguished Conduct Medal. On this edition of L'Chaim, I am honored to be joined by Fred Hausman's son, Eric Hausman Houston, who is a successful playwright, having written Becoming Adele and Sweet Deliverance. And Eric is a wonderful author who's now written a fascinating novel entitled The Lost Artist, which is based on the true story of his father. And Eric, it is wonderful to have you joining us. You wrote a wonderful book. You have a fabulous story. It's lovely having you here at the L'Chaim table.
It's great being here. Thank you.
So as I'm looking at this book, I'm trying to understand how much of it is literal, true, and how much of it is what Isaac Bashevis Singer said was your imagination. How much of this is true?
I try to keep it as true as possible. He told me about the stories, so I had to make up dialogue characters.
Very good. Okay.
But it is as true as I can make it.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to identify for our viewers some of the characters that are in your book, then I'll ask you questions.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to name characters. Who's Fritz?
Well, Fritz, believe it or not, is my father, but I didn't know his name was Fritz.
Really?
Until in 2004 when I talked him into telling his story. And he didn't want to do it. He said...
you always knew him as Fred?
Always Fred. I didn't know he was Chaim. I didn't know he was Fritz. He didn't want to talk about that time. He would tell us war stories and the fun stuff. He would tell me about Amon, the horse. I don't know what happened, why he connected with my father, but I think he saw the awe on my father's face, and my father was 13 at the time.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and that horse saved his life. If it hadn't been for that horse, I doubt he would have met King Abdullah, and he wouldn't have had his protection. And he wouldn't have been on the third line because he was crazy. He was always trying to get on the first line.
You've mentioned now a number of times, and it's in this book, your father's medal was stolen.
Yeah.
What's that story? Why would anybody steal that medal? And where was it stolen from? And where does it stand now?
The only thing he asked me on his deathbed that weekend was make sure you get my medals. He was trying to get them, and he thought he'd have 6 months at least. And I assured him I would, but we both knew they were safe. We had talked to the Ministry of Defense. I talked to them in '96, and they said they're much safer there than in your home. And he had they told him the same thing. And I think the person...
His medals were where?
They were in the British Ministry of Defense. They were saved there. No one could get them except my father or his family after his death. We have all his other medals. Lord Michael Ashcroft has his stolen medal now. He bought the entire group of medals from the London Medal Company, even though we have all his other medals. So he should know. He's never responded. All his people and lawyers have responded. And because Scotland Yard refused to declare them stolen, and that's bizarre to me also.
How do you find out they're stolen to begin with?
Well, it was 2014, and I said, it's time I got my father's medals for my nephew and nieces to have them there. Legally, they belong to my stepmom, but she would never sell them either. She's already given the other medals to my sister so that they can be passed on. And she could use the money, but they're that important to us. They're personal. It's not, you don't just sell your dad's medals. They were in the British Ministry of Defense. Now, the one gallantry medal is separate from his other medals, the campaign medals. So the gallantry medal was stolen. That has his name on it, and it even has the wrong name. Jack Churchill, in his citation, said my father legally changed his name. My father never changed the last name of Hausman. He dropped an N to make it, but that was it. He never spelt it Houseman, except when he was in the commandos, because if he was captured by the Nazis, they were all going to say that he was Freddie Hausman, Houseman, a good Christian from Manchester, England. Fortunately, it didn't happen. If he had been captured, that's what they would have said. But he never changed his name, and the medal has Houseman, so they obviously read the citation. My father died in 2006, April of 2006, 2 days before his 85th birthday. 5 months later, the medal appears in an auction. No other provenance ever. It suddenly appears in the Ron Penhall auction. Ron Penhall was a Canadian medal collector from Vancouver, the other side of Canada. And Ron Penhall made it very clear he won't be at the auction of his medals. And he was elderly. He was, I think, in his 80s. So it was probably the perfect medal auction to launder it in. He was from Canada. I've talked to the Penhall family, and I've looked at the collection. He was so fastidious about provenance. There is no way he would sell a medal without giving any indication of where he got it. And the London D&W auction house wouldn't have allowed that. If I try to sell a medal through their auction house, they would want to know where I got it. And yet there's nothing. So I believe there's a crime ring in the British Ministry of Defense stealing these medals and laundering it through D&W and auction house. And I'm hoping with whatever proceeds I raise through this that it all goes to getting all the War Heroes medals back, doing a full investigation, finding out how many other medals were taken. I mean, they admit there is no application for my father. There's no address they could have sent it to. Their claim, they have a stamp dated on a dispatch card saying 1948. Well, at the onset of the Arab-Jewish War, would my father apply for his gallantry medal and ignore all his other medals? Is that possible? Would he then sell his gallantry medal without getting any of his other medals? They admit there's no application and he never applied for any of his medals.
So the bottom line is somebody stole it from the ministry?
What I was told from the British Ministry of Defense is it had to be more than one person. It couldn't just be one.
A ring.
It has to be a ring because one person, there's too many, unless that's not true.
If you know where it is, you can't get it back?
Lord Michael Ashcroft knows that he was ripped off, or should know, if his people have told him, unless they're just getting lawyers on it themselves. But he was ripped off by the London Metal Company. He could easily get his money back. He should send them to jail for, what they did is they took other War Heroes medals and passed them off as my father's. That's despicable. These guys, you don't know what they gave. We don't know how much they gave in those wars, but I know it was a lot. Mm-hmm. If they got those medals, their names should not be disassociated with them.
And what's the value of this medal? Why is there value to it?
We didn't understand that. With no legal provenance, with the other medals being spurious, Ashcroft bought it for about $120,000. Legally, and now the book it's getting great reaction. As the medal becomes more and more known, it's going to be worth a lot more. That's why we think giving it to someplace like Ben Sham and the Youth Village, which takes in the orphan kids and it saved my father's life. We think that would be probably a good place for it. Mm-hmm. But again, it's not my decision. It's my nephew and niece's.
Its value is as a collector's item, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it should be something personal for the family. But then you have good collectors like Ron Penhall, who really went out of his way. He went all over the world meeting with the war heroes of their medals. He was a self-made millionaire. He was an inventor. He did something, I think, with water. But he actually went and met with the heroes, and if they needed financial help, he wanted to know why they had to sell their medals. He would help them. So, I mean, that's a really good collector. That's a really, he's showing, respect for these heroes who gave so much for their country and for our freedom. I can't say I've seen that with this case, Mm-hmm. All I'm seeing is just bizarre greed. Mm-hmm. I don't know why anyone would want a stolen medal.
Okay. If the story moves on, you've got to come back and take us through the next chapter.
Yeah.
In the meantime, it has been wonderful meeting you. You're a lovely, lovely guy, and you had an extraordinary father. You were very, very lucky and very blessed. My sense is you were a wonderful son to him. And so you brought blessing to your father, so good for you. But thank you, Eric, for being here.
Lord, thank you. You're terrific for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. The book is The Lost Artist. As you can tell, it is just a page turner. It's a rip-roaring story from beginning to end, and it also gives one a glimpse into what it was like in pre-state Palestine during the war, a story about a remarkable human being, and his son has written The Lost Artist. I recommend it to all of you. I'm Mark Golub. L'chaim, my friends, to life.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.